Welcome to Crisis in Perception, where we examine the systems shaping our world, one book at a time. So let's start with a big question, one that I think sits just under the surface for a lot of us. What if our culture's definition of success is just broken? What if the race we're all running is on the wrong track entirely? From a pretty young age, we're all handed this kind of invisible script. It's the default setting for modern life, and it tells us exactly what a good life should look like. Climb the ladder, get more stuff, and whatever you do, stay young. And here's where we hit our first big problem, that unfulfilling default setting. See, this cultural script is supposed to be the roadmap to happiness, but for so many people, it ends up leading somewhere else entirely.
Because what happens when you follow all the rules? You climb that ladder, you accumulate all the things, and you still feel empty inside? Well, that creates a real personal crisis, a crisis of meaning. You start to wonder if the entire system, the very idea of success you were sold, is flawed.
But what if there was another script, a kind of counter-narrative that challenges all those default assumptions? And that brings us to the catalyst for our story, a final class on living. I want you to imagine this. Your old college professor is facing the end of his life. But instead of withdrawing, he decides to teach one last class. Not from a textbook, but from his own life experience. And the subject? Well, it's the biggest one of all. How to truly live a meaningful life. So those private lessons between a student and his dying mentor, Morrie Schwartz, actually became the book Tuesdays with Morrie by Mitch Albom. And this book wasn't just a bestseller, it became this global touchstone for people everywhere who were looking for an alternative to that broken script. So how do we find a different way forward? Well, the solution this book offers is all about rewriting the cultural rules. It gives us a chance to just pause, look at the rules we've been following without even thinking, and then consciously choose our own. Let's look at how these value systems just completely clash. Take money, for example. The system's rule is simple. More is better. Go chase that status. But Morrie's alternative cuts right through all that noise. He says status won't give you tenderness. It suggests what we're actually craving is connection. And this applies to aging, too. Our culture treats getting older like it's this state of decay that we should all be afraid of. But the book presents this totally radical alternative. Aging is a stage of growth that should be embraced. Every year adds a whole new layer of experience and wisdom. To really wrap our heads around this, it helps to use a metaphor. Let's think of our culture not just as a set of ideas, but as a kind of program. Let's call it an outdated operating system for our lives. So, this cultural operating system, it's always running in the background. It shapes our choices, our ambitions, our fears, often without us even realizing it's there. It's the software telling us that our career is more important than our community, or that being young is more valuable than being wise. The problem is, our current OS is, well, it's buggy. It prioritizes the wrong things, and that leads to all these system crashes, burnout, loneliness, that crisis of meaning. It feels like it's missing the code for core human values. A full reboot is definitely required. So what does this reboot look like? It's not about rejecting the world. It's about choosing a new perspective, a fundamentally different lens through which to see everything. Just take a moment with this quote right here. It's a perfect example of this new perspective. The default system tells us death is the final, absolute end. But this one simple sentence reframes everything. It suggests that the love and the memories we build are permanent, that they actually transcend physical presence. And that, right there, is the ultimate takeaway. The greatest gift of this book isn't a new list of rules to follow, it's awareness. It makes that invisible cultural operating system visible. And once you can see the system, you are no longer a prisoner of it. You finally get the power to choose your own values, to write your own script for a meaningful life. For the full, long-form deep dive into this book and its ideas, follow the link in the description. If you enjoy these explainers, please subscribe and comment with books or topics you'd like us to explore next.